Hello and welcome to Brokenomics. Now, I've been thinking a bit philosophically lately. I've been thinking about what does it actually mean to be rich. Now, at first blush, this is one of those sort of questions which, maybe the mere fact that you're asking it gives you your answer. I mean, maybe you don't ask, am I rich or am I sane, unless you actually are, and then you're just sort of pontificating a bit too much about it. But I tell you what got me thinking about it is Guy Ritchie. He has this good series about, it's called The Gentleman. And it starts out with this sort of montage of what you might assume are very rich people, landed gentry living in their country estates in their big houses. But they're all absolutely broke. And, yes, they live on a country estate with a very big house that's been in the family for 17 generations or whatever it is. But they're completely poor, and the roof is shot through, and they can't afford to fix it, and nobody goes upstairs anymore because the upstairs is just covered in tarpaulin and buckets everywhere, which they just had to go up and occasionally empty out the window. So it is possible to, on first blush, look rich while being completely poor. Spoiler alert, where I'm coming to this is basically Western nations today, because I keep getting told that people are coming here because we are a rich country, but it doesn't feel like that to me. It feels to me like we are completely broke. But anyway, no, on my philosophical journey, I started pondering, what does it mean to be rich as an individual for a start? And I came to about 5 factors, I think, that clinched it for me. And the first big one is that you get to control your time. If your hours are directed by debt and obligation and fear of loss, then maybe you're not actually rich. Is the man who earns 40k a year with no mortgage, who has time to raise his children, and control over his calendar and can do what he wants when he wants, is he richer than a banker on 300k who is chained to a BlackBerry and a mortgage on a £2 million McMansion? I think maybe the rich man is the guy who does not necessarily have a lot, but who needs little. And that sort of knocks on the head any notion that being rich is a number. I don't think it is a number. I think it's something else. The second thing I came to is it's about redundancy. It's resilience. It's not living paycheck to paycheck, even if the paycheck is a really big number. It's redundancy in money, but also in energy. You're not burnt out. You're not in relationships that you hate. You're in relationships that you appreciate. You're not lonely. You have future options. You're not trapped. Third thing I thought is, well, it's life free from arbitrary coercions. If the threat of government and HR departments and bank managers and blackmailers can collapse your life, maybe you're not rich, you're fragile. So wealth has to be sovereignty. 4, the ability to raise the next generation. If you can't afford to raise children without relying on subsidies or extended family, then maybe you're not rich. You're just leasing a lifestyle. And historically, wealth always meant land and food and family and safety, whereas today the sort of generally accepted definition appears to be synthetic and leveraged, and that doesn't feel right. And 5th is the ability to absorb shocks. So, you get sick or you lose your job, or the government has some insane notion, like we're going to do 2 years of lockdowns unless you agree to take the thing. Can you ride that out, or can you not? So richness is anti-fragility. So then I thought, okay, well, we need a test here, don't we? We need a test to ask if you're rich, and play along at home and see how you feel about these questions. It's can you stop working for a year and be fine? Can you have another child and not go into debt? Can you tell, HR departments, algorithms, employers, associates, can you tell them to get lost? and survive. Do you have the ability to walk away from, deals and social contagions and people and not be anxious? Can you live where you want and how you want and still sleep well at night? And if you're mostly answering yes to those questions, then I think you're rich, even if you live simply, even if your number isn't as big as somebody else's number who can't answer yes to all of those questions. And we got this kind of inversion in the modern world where the average person in the US or UK or pick your country. I think this applies to the entire Anglosphere and most European Western nations, and what I'm talking about. But the average person, they've got a smartphone and they've got a pension fund and they've got access to Amazon, and they might even buy a lot of stuff on Amazon, but they can't afford a home, and they can't afford children, and they can't afford to speak freely at work. They're asset linked, credit fed, but existentially rather poor. So anyway, then I started thinking about, okay, well, what does this mean for a nation? Because I think that a nation is healthy and rich when a single income family can raise children in safety. I think it's when their citizens are not surveilled or coerced or economically trapped or having to ask permission from their bloody bank to withdraw some money. And if they don't give a good enough reason, then they get told no, and they can make transactions. I think a nation is rich when it produces more than it consumes, and it doesn't have to rely on leverage in order to get there. And I think it is rich when it treats the future as something to invest in and not something that you just extract from to keep your old people in the lifestyle that they have come to expect from the largesse of the state.
If you would like to see the full version of this premium video, please head over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to gain full access to all of our premium content.